The champagne flute felt too delicate in Dante Caruso's hand. Crystal, expensive. The kind of thing that cost more than most people made in a month. He stood at the edge of the Metropolitan Museum's Great Hall, watching the charity gala unfold with the detached interest of a man who'd seen too many of these events to find them interesting anymore. 200 of New York's elite mingled under soaring ceilings, their laughter echoing off marble floors, their jewelry catching light from chandeliers that probably cost more than a small country's GDP. Dante had funded half the renovation himself through his hotel empire. The Caruso collection, 15 luxury properties across 3 continents, each one a masterpiece of design and discretion. The legitimate side of his business, anyway. Mr. Caruso. A board member approached, hand extended. Thank you again for your generous donation. The new wing will be transformative. Dante shook his hand with practiced warmth. Happy to support the arts. The lie came easily. He didn't care about art, didn't care about charity galas or tax write-offs or any of the performative philanthropy that kept men like him looking respectable. He cared about power, control, and maintaining the careful balance between his public face and the empire he'd built in shadows. But he was here because appearances mattered, because the Caruso name needed to be associated with culture and refinement, not with the territorial disputes he'd been managing in Brooklyn, or the shipments moving through his ports, or the 14 men who answered to him and made sure his interests stayed protected. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. He was scanning the room, already calculating when he could leave without causing offense. When he saw her, the world didn't stop. There was no dramatic music, no slow-motion moments, like in movies. But something in Dante's chest seized, tightened, and made breathing suddenly difficult. Isabelle. She stood near the Impressionist gallery entrance, laughing at something a man beside her had said. The sound carried across the space, bright, genuine, the kind of laugh he hadn't heard from her in the last year of their marriage. She wore emerald green silk that moved like water when she shifted her weight. Her dark hair swept up to expose the curve of her neck. That neck he'd once kissed every morning before she woke. 2 years. He hadn't seen her in 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days. Not that he was counting. Dante, his second-in-command, Marco, materialized at his elbow. You look like you've seen a ghost. Not a ghost. Dante's voice came out rougher than intended. She's here. Marco followed his gaze. Shit. Isabelle? Who's the man? Marco pulled out his phone, typed quickly. His network of information was efficient. Within 30 seconds, he had an amour. Answer. Adrian Blackwell. Venture capitalist. Old money, Harvard-educated. Sits on 4 corporate boards. Clean record. Very clean. And according to this. Marco's eyebrows rose. They're engaged. Announcement went out 2 weeks ago. The champagne flute cracked in Dante's hand. He looked down, saw blood welling from where Crystal had cut his palm, felt nothing. All his focus was on the woman across the room and the diamond glittering on her left hand as she gestured while talking, animated and alive in a way she'd stopped being with him. Boss, your hand. I'm fine. Dante grabbed a napkin from a passing server, wrapped it around his palm. Tell me about Blackwell. You want a full background check? Everything. Where he lives, where he works, who he knows, what he eats for breakfast. I want to know things his mother doesn't know. Marco hesitated. Dante, she moved on. You signed the papers. It's been 2 years. I don't remember asking for your opinion. The words came out, sharp enough that Marco stepped back slightly. They'd worked together for 15 years, since they were both 25 and stupid enough to think they could take on the world. Marco was the closest thing Dante had to a friend. But right now, Dante didn't want a friend. He wanted information, control, and to understand why seeing Isabelle happy felt like someone had reached into his chest and torn something vital out. Get me everything on Blackwell, Dante repeated, and find out why she's back in New York. She works here now. A woman's voice, sharp and knowing. Dante turned to find Catherine Morrison, the museum's director, watching him with barely concealed amusement. Our new senior curator, started 3 weeks ago. Brilliant eye for modern art. We're lucky to have her. Senior curator. Dante processed this. She's staying permanently? 5-year contract with option to extend. Catherine sipped her wine. You didn't know? I thought you two kept in touch. We don't. Catherine's smile suggested she understood far more than Dante wanted her to. Well, you're about to. She's giving a speech in 10 minutes about the new acquisition wing. The one your donation funded. You'll be introduced, thanked publicly. Standard donor recognition. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Dante watched Isabelle across the room. She hadn't seen him yet, too focused on her conversation with Blackwell. The man touched her lower back, a possessive gesture, casual intimacy, and she leaned into it naturally. Something dark and violent surged in Dante's chest. He recognized the feeling. Jealousy, raw and consuming. He'd felt it before, in business when competitors tried to take what was his. But never like this. Never this personal. 5 minutes, Mr. Caruso. An assistant appeared at his side. We'll need you on stage for the presentation. Dante nodded, his eyes never leaving Isabelle. 2 years ago, she'd walked out of their penthouse with 2 suitcases and words that still echoed in his mind during the rare moments he let himself remember. I can't love someone who doesn't see me, and you stopped seeing me a long time ago, Dante. I became furniture in your life, present but irrelevant. I deserve more than that. I deserve everything, and I'm finally brave enough to go find it. He'd let her go, told himself it was for the best, that he couldn't give her what she needed: attention, affection, the parts of himself he'd locked away to survive in his world. Marriage had been a mistake. Love was a liability. He'd learned that from his father, who died with a knife in his back, betrayed by someone he'd trusted because he'd been distracted by domestic concerns. Dante had sworn never to make the same mistake. But watching Isabelle now, radiant and alive with another man's ring on her finger, Dante realized he'd made a different mistake entirely. He'd lost the only real thing he'd ever had, and he was about to walk on stage and face her for the first time in 2 years, bleeding hand wrapped in a napkin, and absolutely no idea what he was going to say. Isabelle saw him the moment the museum director called his name. And now, I'd like to invite our most generous donor to the stage. Please welcome Dante Caruso of the Caruso Collection. Her breath caught. The room tilted slightly, and Adrian's hand steadied her elbow. You okay? He whispered. Fine, she lied. Just surprised. But surprise didn't cover it. Shocked, maybe. Ambushed. Unprepared. Dante crossed the stage with that predatory grace she remembered too well. Expensive suit tailored perfectly, dark hair pushed back from his face, that scar through his left eyebrow from a fight he'd never explained. He looked older lines around his eyes she didn't remember, a hardness to his jaw that seemed more pronounced. Or maybe she was just seeing him clearly for the first time in years, without the filter of love and hope that had made her ignore so many warning signs. Their eyes met across the stage. For 3 seconds, the world narrowed to just the two of them. She saw recognition flare in his dark eyes, followed by something she couldn't name. Surprise? Regret? Hunger? Then Catherine was guiding her forward, making introductions as if they were strangers. Mr. Caruso, this is Isabelle Laurent, our new senior curator. Isabelle will be managing the contemporary wing your donation helped create. Miss Laurent. Dante's voice was exactly as she remembered, deep, controlled, revealing nothing. He extended his hand. She took it, feeling the bandage wrapped around his palm. Mr. Caruso, thank you for your generosity. Professional, distant, like they hadn't been married for 3 years. Like she hadn't memorized every scar on his body, every tension point in his shoulders, every tells that indicated when he was lying. His hand tightened around hers for just a moment, and she saw his jaw clench. The pleasure is mine, he said. I look forward to seeing what you do with the space. Catherine beamed, oblivious to the tension crackling between them. Wonderful. Isabelle, why don't you walk Mr. Caruso through your vision for the new wing? I'm sure he'd appreciate understanding how his investment will be utilized. Actually, Isabelle started. I'd love that, Dante interrupted smoothly, if you have time. Trapped. Professionally, socially, completely trapped. Of course, Isabelle said, pulling her hand free from his. I have preliminary sketches in my office. Adrian appeared at her side, his presence a reminder that she wasn't alone, wasn't the same woman who'd left Dante's penthouse broken and hollow. I should come with you. Adrian Blackwell, Dante said before Isabelle could respond. Venture capitalist, Harvard class of 2012. You recently closed a deal with Meridian Tech for $80 million. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I make it my business to know who's who in this city. Adrian's expression cooled. Dante Caruso, the Caruso Collection. 15 hotels, multiple restaurant holdings, and, he paused meaningfully, various other interests. I make it my business to know who to avoid. The air between them turned dangerous. Adrian, Isabelle said firmly. It's fine. This is work. I'll meet you back here in 20 minutes. Isabelle, 20 minutes. Adrian looked between them, clearly wanting to argue, then nodded reluctantly. I'll be right here. As Isabelle led Dante away from the main gallery, she felt his presence behind her like a physical weight. They walked in silence through marble corridors until they reached her office, small but elegant, with a view of Central Park. She closed the door, turned to face him, and dropped the professional mask. What are you doing here, Dante? I could ask you the same thing. He moved into her space, studying her office with that calculating gaze that missed nothing. New York. The Met. You swore you'd never come back to this city. People change. Not that much. His eyes found hers. Not you. You don't know me anymore. Don't I? He stepped closer. You still tap your left foot when you're nervous. Still bite your lower lip when you're thinking. Still wear your grandmother's locket when you need courage. His gaze dropped to her neck, where the gold locket rested against her collarbone. Some things don't change, Isabelle. She forced herself not to step back. What do you want? Who says I want anything? Because you're here. Because you never come to these events. I checked the donor list before accepting this position. Made sure you weren't on the board. You hate these galas. You told me once that you'd rather negotiate with the Russian mob than make small talk with socialites. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You remember that. I remember everything. The words came out more raw than she intended. That's the problem. Silence stretched between them. Outside, the party continued laughter, music, the clinking of glasses. But in this small office, there was only the weight of everything unsaid. You're engaged, Dante said finally. I am, to a venture capitalist named Adrian Blackwell. You had him investigated already. Of course I did. No apology in his tone, no shame. He's not right for you, Isabelle laughed, sharp and bitter. You don't get to have an opinion on that anymore. He's boring, safe, everything you thought you wanted but will never make you happy. And you know what makes me happy? The anger she'd been suppressing for 2 years surged to the surface. You, who forgot my birthday 3 years in a row? Who missed our anniversary dinner because business came up? Who spent more time on your phone during our honeymoon than looking at me? Isabelle, who barely touched me the last year of our marriage, who treated me like I was a picture on the wall, pretty, expensive, but ultimately decorative. Her voice rose. You don't know anything about what makes me happy, Dante. You never did. His jaw clenched. Is that really what you think? It's what I know. I lived it. For 3 years, I loved you so completely that I lost myself. And you. She gestured helplessly. You were already gone, buried in your empire, your control, your need to be untouchable. I was drowning, and you didn't even notice until I left. I noticed. When? After I filed the papers? After I moved to Paris? Or maybe you noticed right now when you saw me with someone else? Isabelle moved closer, anger making her brave. That's what this is, isn't it? You're here because I'm engaged. Because suddenly, the trophy you discarded is wanted by someone else, and your ego can't handle it. It's not about ego. Then what is it about, Dante? Tell me. Because you let me go without a fight. You signed the divorce papers without even reading them. You said, and I quote, "If that's what you want, then go." No argument. No attempt to save what we had. Nothing. His hand shot out, caught her wrist not hard, but firm. His thumb found her pulse point, and she hated that her heart betrayed her by racing. You want to know what it's about? His voice dropped to something dangerous, intimate. It's about seeing you across that room, laughing, shining. Everything I remember, but brighter. It's about realizing that I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too proud, too damaged, too convinced that caring about someone was weakness. He pulled her closer, and she didn't resist. It's about watching another man touch you and wanting to break his hand. About seeing that ring on your finger and knowing I have no right to object but wanting to anyway. It's about 2 years of telling myself I did the right thing, that you deserved better, that I couldn't be what you needed, and then seeing you again and realizing I was lying to myself the entire time. Isabelle's breath came shorter. This close, she could smell his cologne cedar and something darker, familiar, devastating. You had 2 years to figure that out, she whispered. I know. 2 years to call, to text, to show up and fight for me. I know. And you did nothing. Said nothing. Until tonight when it's too late. Is it? His free hand came up, cupped her face. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, and she hated herself for leaning into the touch. Is it too late, Isabelle? She should say yes. Should step back, slap him, throw him out of her office and her life permanently. She'd moved on, built a new career, a new future with a good man who would never ignore her, never prioritize business over her presence. But Dante was looking at her like she was oxygen, and she'd forgotten how intense his attention felt when it was fully focused on her. During their marriage, she'd been starving for these eyes, this presence, this raw need she could feel radiating from him. And she'd left because he'd stopped giving it to her. Yes, she forced herself to say. It's too late. She pulled away, putting distance between them. Her wrist still tingled where he'd held it. I'm marrying Adrian in 6 months. I have a life here, a career I love, a future that doesn't include you. She straightened her shoulders, found her strength. What we had is over. It's been over. And you need to accept that. Dante stood there, something flickering across his face. Pain, anger, determination. Then his mask slipped back into place, the cold, controlled man she'd divorced. You're right, he said quietly. I apologize for overstepping. Congratulations on your engagement and your position here. He moved toward the door, and Isabelle should have felt relief. Should have felt victory. Instead, she felt loss. At the door, he paused. One question. What? Do you love him, Adrian? Do you love him the way you loved me? The question was a knife, precise and cutting. I love him, she said. In a way that's healthy. That doesn't hurt. That doesn't leave me crying, in empty rooms wondering why I'm not enough. That's not what I asked. It's the answer you get. Dante nodded slowly. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. I'm sorry, Isabelle. For all of it. For not seeing you when you were right in front of me. For losing you. For not fighting when I should have. He left before she could respond. Isabelle stood alone in her office, heart racing, hands shaking. Through the window, Central Park sprawled dark and vast, the city lights reflecting off the reservoir. She touched the locket at her neck, her grandmother's, worn for courage like Dante had said. Inside was a photo she'd never removed, her and Dante on their wedding day, young and stupid enough to believe love conquered everything. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, everything okay? That looked intense. She typed back. Fine. Just unexpected. Heading back now. But as she left her office and returned to the gala, returning to Adrian's side and his safe, uncomplicated affection, Isabelle couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight. Dante Caruso had let her walk away once without a fight. She had a sinking suspicion he wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The first flowers arrived at her office 3 days later. Not roses, Dante knew she found roses cliché. Instead, a massive arrangement of white peonies and garden roses, her favorites, the kind that cost a fortune in November because they had to be imported from South America. The card was simple, unsigned. I'm sorry for not seeing you. I see you now. Isabelle threw the card away and donated the flowers to the hospital wing on 68th Street. The second arrangement arrived the next day. Orchids this time, rare and impossibly beautiful. The card read, You wore emerald green to our first date. You said it was your armor color. She donated those too, but kept the card, hated herself for it. By the end of the week, her office looked like a funeral home. Peonies, orchids, jasmine, lily of the valley, every flower she'd ever mentioned loving over 3 years of marriage. Each arrangement came with a memory, a detail so specific it made her chest ache. You cried during La Boheme at the Met Opera. Said Mimi deserved better than Rodolfo's selfishness. You take your coffee black, with 1 sugar, but only on Tuesdays. Other days, just black. You hum when you're concentrating. Chopin, usually. The Nocturne in E-flat major. This is insane, Adrian said on Friday evening, staring at the latest delivery, a Japanese maple bonsai tree, 40 years old, worth more than most cars. He's trying to buy you back with expensive plants. He's not trying to buy me back. Isabelle studied the card. You said you wanted a garden someday, somewhere quiet where beauty could grow without performance. I should have built you one. Then what is he doing? I don't know. But that was a lie. She knew exactly what Dante was doing. He was showing her that he'd paid attention, that every moment she'd thought he wasn't listening, wasn't present. He'd been cataloging details about her, storing them away. It was manipulative, calculated, quintessentially Dante, and it was working. Make it stop, Adrian said, frustration evident. Tell him to leave you alone. Get a restraining order if you have to. He hasn't done anything threatening, just flowers. Flowers that come with surveillance-level knowledge of your preferences. Adrian pulled her close. Isabelle, this man is dangerous. I've been asking around. The Caruso collection might be legitimate, but Dante Caruso himself? There are rumors, connections to people you don't want to be connected to. Territorial disputes in Brooklyn that end with buildings burning down. He's not just a hotel magnate. I know what he is. She'd always known, even when she'd tried to pretend otherwise. The late-night phone calls, the men who deferred to him with fear disguised as respect, the way violence followed him like a shadow even as he stood. In museum galas wearing $1,000 suits. Then why are you keeping the cards? Because they hurt. Because they reminded her of the man she'd fallen in love with before he'd locked that version of himself away. Because for 3 years of marriage, she'd begged him to see her. Really see her. And now he was proving he always had. Too late. 2 years too late. I'll talk to him, Isabelle said finally. Tell him to stop. But she didn't have to seek him out. The next morning, Saturday, Dante was waiting outside her apartment building. She saw him through the lobby window leaning against a black town car, wearing jeans and a leather jacket instead of his usual armor of expensive suits. He looked younger this way. More like the man she'd met 7 years ago at a gallery opening, before money and power had calcified around him. Isabelle considered going back upstairs, calling Adrian, calling security, calling someone. Instead, she pushed through the door. This is harassment, she said without preamble. Good morning to you too. Dante straightened, and she hated that her body remembered the height of him, the breadth of his shoulders. The way he moved like violence was always an option but never necessary. The flowers need to stop. Why? You love flowers. I loved flowers from my husband. You're not my husband anymore. Something dark flashed in his eyes. No, I'm the man who was too stupid to appreciate what he had, but I'm trying to fix that. You can't fix this with grand gestures, Dante. That's not how it works. Then tell me how it works. He moved closer, and she forced herself not to retreat. Tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it. You want me to grovel? Consider it done. You want me to suffer? Isabelle, I've been suffering for 2 years. I just didn't let myself admit it until I saw you again. What do you want from me? A chance, one conversation, 2 hours of your time. That's all I'm asking. To say what? To rehash everything that went wrong? We've been down that road, Dante. It ends the same way every time, with me breaking and you retreating behind your walls. Then let me break this time. His voice dropped, became something raw and desperate that she'd never heard from him before. Let me be the one who's vulnerable. Who admits that I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was terrified of caring more about you than power, more about your happiness than control. Why now? The question burst out of her. Why, after 2 years of silence, do you suddenly care? What changed? You did, he gestured helplessly. You moved on. You're happy without me, thriving without me, and it made me realize that I've been surviving, not living, going through motions, building empires that mean nothing if I can't share them with the person who made me feel human. Tears burned behind Isabelle's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. You don't get to do this. Show up with pretty words and expect me to forget. I don't expect you to forget. I expect you to hate me. You should hate me. Dante's hand came up, hovering near her face but not touching. But give me 2 hours. Let me take you somewhere. Let me try to explain what I couldn't say when we were married. I'm engaged, Dante. I know. And if after 2 hours you still want to marry Adrian, I'll walk away. Permanently. No more flowers. No more ambushes. I'll disappear from your life completely. His jaw clenched. But if there's any part of you that wonders what if, that questions whether you're settling for safe instead of reaching for everything you deserve, then give me this chance. Isabelle should say no. Should turn around, go back inside, call Adrian, and forget this conversation happened. But she'd been building a life that felt hollow at the edges, telling herself she'd moved on while keeping a photo in her locket, pretending that safe and comfortable was the same as fulfilled. 2 hours, she heard herself say. And then you, leave me alone. 2 hours, Dante agreed, but something in his expression suggested he had no intention of leaving her alone ever again. He drove her out of the city, heading north on the Taconic Parkway as autumn colors blazed on either side of the road. They didn't speak. The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable, filled with a tension that felt almost nostalgic. After 40 minutes, Dante pulled off onto a small road that wound through dense forest. 5 more minutes, and they arrived at a gate. He punched in a code and the gate swung open. "Where are we?" Isabelle asked as they drove up a winding driveway. "Somewhere I bought 2 years ago, and never had the courage to show you." The house appeared through the trees, stone and glass, modern but warm, built into the hillside with massive windows overlooking the Hudson Valley. Surrounding it, visible even in late autumn, were the remnants of gardens, raised beds, a greenhouse, pathways lined with dormant perennials. Isabelle's breath caught. Dante parked and killed the engine. "You said you wanted a garden someday, somewhere quiet where beauty could grow without performance. I bought this place 3 months after you left. Spent a year designing the gardens based on sketches I found in your notebook, the one you left behind when you moved out." She turned to stare at him. "You built me a garden?" "I built us a garden. Or tried to. I hired landscape architects, bought rare plants, spent every weekend for a year driving up here to oversee the work." His hands gripped the steering wheel, then realized I was building a monument to my failure. A place we'd never share because I'd destroyed any chance of that. "Dante, come see it, please." They walked through the garden in silence. Even in November, with most plants dormant, Isabelle could see the vision. Sections for herbs, cutting flowers, vegetables, a pergola wrapped in dormant wisteria, stone paths that wound through carefully planned beds designed to bloom in succession from spring through fall. In the center, a fountain, simple, elegant, the sound of water, providing a peaceful backdrop. "There's a studio inside," Dante said, pointing to the house. "North-facing windows, perfect light for painting. I know you gave up art during our marriage, but I thought maybe someday you'd want to start again." Isabelle stopped walking. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I need you to understand that I saw you. Every day of our marriage, I saw you. I just didn't know how to choose you over the empire I'd built. Didn't know how to be vulnerable without feeling weak. My father taught me that caring about anything more than power was suicide in our world." He moved closer, and she let him. "You asked me once if I was capable of putting you first. I said I didn't know. That was a lie. The truth was I was terrified that if I did, if I loved you completely, someone would use you against me, that you'd become a target. So I kept you at arm's length, convinced myself it was protection when really it was cowardice." "And what's changed?" Isabelle demanded. "What makes you think you can do it now?" "Because I realized that losing you to my fear hurt more than any threat ever could. Because I've been living a life that looks successful from the outside but feels empty. Because seeing you with someone else made me understand that the only thing worse than you being a target is you being happy with someone who isn't me." He took her hand, and she was so surprised she didn't pull away. "I'm not asking you to take me back," Dante continued. "Not today. I'm asking you to see that I'm trying, that I've changed, that I built you a garden even though I thought I'd never have the chance to show you, because some part of me needed you to know that you mattered, that you weren't furniture or decoration. You were everything, and I was too damaged to handle that." Tears spilled down Isabelle's cheeks. "You broke my heart, Dante. For 3 years. I loved you so completely that I lost myself, and you let me drown." "I know," his voice cracked, "and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But I'm asking for a chance to be the man you deserved then, to show you that I'm not the same person who let you walk away. I don't know if I can trust you again." "Then don't. Not yet." His thumb brushed her knuckles. "But spend time with me. Let me prove it. Let me show you that I've learned the difference between control and connection, between power and partnership." Isabelle looked around the garden, at this place he'd built for a future he'd destroyed. It was beautiful and heartbreaking and so quintessentially Dante grand gesture. Expensive, but ultimately 2 years too late. "I'm still engaged," she said. "I know. And even if I wasn't, there's so much damage between us. So many wounds that don't just heal because you're suddenly ready to address them. I know that too. Then what are we doing here, Dante? What's the endgame?" He released her hand, stepped back. "The endgame is that you make an informed choice. You decide to marry Adrian, knowing that I fought for you, knowing what we could have if I'd gotten my head out of my ass sooner. Or," he paused, "you decide we're worth a second chance. Either way, you choose with complete information instead of wondering, what if for the rest of your life." It was manipulative, strategic, classic. Dante always 3 moves ahead. And it was working. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. I need to think, Isabelle said finally. Take all the time you need. And the flowers need to stop. If we're going to, whatever this is, it has to be honest, not performative. Done. Dante pulled keys from his pocket, held them out. The house is yours, whether you come back to me or not. I had it put in your name 6 months ago. The deed's in the kitchen. She stared at the keys. Why would you do that? Because you deserve a place where beauty can grow without performance, even if I'm not part of it. Isabelle took the keys, felt their weight in her palm. This house, this garden, this man standing before her with his heart finally visible, it was everything she'd begged for during their marriage. 2 years too late. Or maybe, a small voice whispered, exactly on time. Maybe she'd needed those 2 years to find herself again, to build a life on her own terms, to become strong enough to face Dante as an equal instead of as the woman desperate for his attention. If you're hooked on this story and want to see how Dante and Isabelle's second chance unfolds, smash that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me if you think she should give him another chance. I read every single one. Take me home, she said. Dante's expression flickered. Disappointment, resignation, determination. They drove back to the city in silence. When he pulled up outside her building, Isabelle didn't get out immediately. I need you to understand something, she said. If we do this, if I even consider giving you a second chance, it can't be the way it was before. I won't be the wife who waits for scraps of your attention. I won't be patient and understanding while you prioritize everything else. I know. I'm serious, Dante. I left because I had to choose myself, and I'll do it again if you fall back into old patterns. I'm not asking you to sacrifice yourself. He turned to face her fully. I'm asking to be let into your life, to support your career, your dreams, your independence. Not to own you or control you, but to be your partner. Words are easy. Then watch my actions. Isabelle opened the door, stepped out. Before closing it, she leaned back in. Thank you for showing me the house. It's beautiful. It's yours, whether I'm in your life or not. She closed the door and walked into her building without looking back. But she felt his eyes on her until she disappeared into the lobby. Upstairs, Adrian was waiting. He'd texted earlier asking to talk. Hey, she said, closing the door behind her. Sorry, I was with Dante Caruso. Adrian's voice was flat. I know. I saw you leave with him this morning. Guilt flooded through her. Adrian, I can explain. Can you? Because from where I'm standing, your ex-husband is pursuing you. You're spending time with him. And I'm supposed to just trust that you're still committed to marrying me in 6 months. I am committed. Are you, though? Adrian stood, and she saw hurt beneath his anger. Isabelle, I've been patient. You said you needed time to adjust to being back in New York, to seeing him at professional events. But this isn't professional. This is you going somewhere with him, alone, for hours. He wanted to show me something, a house he bought. He bought you a house? Adrian laughed bitterly. And that's supposed to make me feel better? That your ex-husband is buying you real estate? It's not like that. Then what is it like? Explain it to me. Because I'm trying to understand why the woman I'm supposed to marry is letting her ex-husband back into her life. Isabelle sank onto the couch, exhausted. I don't know what it is. I'm confused and angry, and he's saying all the things I needed to hear 3 years ago. And I don't know how to process it. Adrian sat beside her, took her hand. His touch was warm, safe, everything Dante's wasn't. I love you, Adrian said quietly. I've loved you since we met in Paris. You were this brilliant, wounded woman rebuilding her life, and I wanted to be part of that. To show you that not all men are like Dante Caruso. I know, and I love you too. But do you love me the way you loved him? The question hung between them. I love you differently, Isabelle said carefully. You're kind and present, and you make me feel safe. That's not nothing, Adrian. That's everything I thought I wanted. Thought you wanted. Past tense. She pulled her hand back. I don't know what I want right now. Seeing Dante again, it's stirring up things I thought I'd buried, and I hate that I'm feeling this way when you've been nothing but wonderful to me. I can't compete with him. Adrian's voice was resigned. I'll never be the grand passion, the dangerous choice. I'm the safe option, the rebound who happened to stick around. That's not fair, isn't it? He stood, moved to the window. I've watched you these past 2 years. You're happy with me, but you're not joyful. Not the way I imagine you were with him before it went bad. And maybe that's enough. Maybe safe and stable is what you need. But I won't be someone's consolation prize, Isabelle. Tears blurred her vision. What are you saying? I'm saying take the time you need to figure out what you really want. But don't wear my ring while you do it. He pulled the engagement ring off her finger, gentle but firm, and set it on the coffee table. Adrian, I'm not breaking up with you. I'm giving you space to choose. Really choose, without guilt or obligation. He moved to the door. When you know, truly know, what you want, call me. If it's me, I'll be here. If it's him, Adrian paused. Well, at least I'll have an answer. He left. Isabelle sat alone in her apartment, staring at the engagement ring on the table, the keys to Dante's house in her purse, and wondered when her life had become a choice between safety and passion, between the man she'd loved enough to destroy herself for and the man who'd loved her enough to let her rebuild. Her phone buzzed. Dante, thank you for today. Whatever you decide, I meant what I said. You deserve everything, even if that everything isn't me. She didn't respond. Instead, she went to her bedroom, opened the locket around her neck, and stared at the wedding photo she'd never removed. 7 years ago, she'd met a man at a gallery opening. He'd stood in front of a Rothko, and she'd made a comment about the emotional violence of the color fields. He'd turned, looked at her like she was the most interesting person in the world, and said, "Tell me more." For 3 years, she'd tried to recapture that moment, that feeling of being truly seen. Now he was offering it again, wrapped in gardens and grand gestures and promises he'd failed to keep before. Could people really change? Or was she about to make the same mistake twice, trading a good man for the ghost of great love? Isabelle closed the locket and made a decision. She needed to know the truth about Dante Caruso. Not the man he was showing her now, but the man he'd become in the 2 years since their divorce. Because words and gestures could lie, but actions couldn't. Marco found Dante in his office at 2 a.m., staring at security footage from the museum gala. The screen was frozen on a frame of Isabelle laughing, emerald dress, catching the light, Adrian's hand on her back. "Boss, you need to sleep. I need to figure out how to fix this." Dante didn't look away from the screen. 2 years, Marco. I had 2 years to get my head straight, and I did nothing. You did plenty. You restructured the organization, legitimized 80% of operations, got us out of the drug trade entirely. You became exactly what she asked you to be. Except I did it without her. For nothing. Dante finally looked up, and Marco was startled by the exhaustion in his face. I built a garden for a woman who's going to marry someone else. I'm pathetic. You're in love. There's a difference. Is there? Dante closed the laptop. Run the background check on Blackwell again. Deeper this time. I want to know everything. We've run it 3 times. The man is aggressively boring. No criminal record, no secret families, no hidden vices. He's exactly what he appears to be, a rich, decent guy who treats Isabelle well. There has to be something. Why? Marco challenged. Because you need him to be a villain so you can justify disrupting her life? Boss, I say this as someone who's known you for 15 years. You need to either fight for her properly or let her go. This halfway thing you're doing, the flowers, the house, the tragic brooding, it's not enough. She asked for time. She asked for time 2 years ago when she left, and you gave her permanent silence. Now she's asking again, and you're playing it safe. That's not the Dante Caruso I know. The Dante Caruso you know destroyed his marriage. No, that Dante was too afraid to be vulnerable. This Dante? Marco gestured at the frozen screen. This Dante built her a garden, admitted his failures, and is sitting in the dark at 2 a.m. because he finally understands what he lost. That's growth, boss. Now use it. Before Dante could respond, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Caruso. Mr. Caruso, this is Officer Rodriguez with the NYPD. There's been an incident involving Isabelle Laurent. You're listed as her emergency contact. Dante's blood turned to ice. What happened? She's fine, but there was a break-in at her apartment. She's shaken up. We're at Mount Sinai Hospital now for precautionary evaluation. She specifically asked that we call you. I'm 10 minutes away. Dante grabbed his jacket and keys, Marco already moving behind him. Want me to come? Marco asked. No. Stay here. Find out everything about the break-in. Who, when, why. I want answers before sunrise. On it. The drive to Mount Sinai took 8 minutes. Dante violated multiple traffic laws and didn't care. He found Isabelle in a private examination room, wearing hospital scrubs because her clothes had been taken as evidence. Her face was pale, a bruise forming on her temple, her hands wrapped in gauze. Isabelle. He was at her side instantly. What happened? Who did this? She looked up, and he saw fear in her eyes, real fear, the kind she'd never minded, hard shown even during their worst fights. Someone broke into my apartment. I heard them in the living room, hid in the bathroom, called 911. The police got there before. She trailed off, starting to shake. Dante sat beside her, careful not to touch without permission. You're safe now. Tell me what happened from the beginning. I came home around midnight. Adrian had taken his ring back earlier, we're not. We're taking a break. She saw something flicker in Dante's expression. This isn't the time for that conversation. Right, sorry. Continue. I was exhausted, went straight to bed. Around 1 a.m., I heard glass breaking. Kitchen window. I grabbed my phone, locked myself in the bathroom. I could hear someone moving through the apartment, opening drawers, throwing things. Her voice cracked. Dante's hand moved instinctively to hers, and she gripped it tight. The police said whoever it was left before they arrived. Didn't take anything valuable, my laptop was there. Jewelry, everything. But they. She looked at him, fear giving way to confusion. They took photos, Dante. Every photo I had of you. Of us. From the wedding, our honeymoon, everything. Why would someone do that? Dante's expression went cold. Where's your phone? Police have it. Did you tell them about the photos? Of course. They think it's some kind of stalker. Maybe someone fixated on me from work. But Dante, that doesn't make sense. Why would a stalker only take photos of my ex-husband? Because whoever broke in wasn't interested in Isabelle. They were interested in Dante's connection to her. I need to make a call, Dante said, standing. Wait. Isabelle grabbed his hand. You know something. I can see it. What's going on? I don't know yet, but I'm gonna find out. Dante, if this has something to do with your... She lowered her voice. Your other business, you need to tell me. Now. He looked at her, saw the fear and determination in her face, and made a decision. When I left the organization 2 years ago, I didn't just walk away. I burned bridges, made sure certain people couldn't follow me into legitimate business. I thought I was protecting you by divorcing you, removing any target from your back. But if someone's discovered our connection, if they think you're still important to me, they might use you as leverage. Or, he didn't want to finish the thought. Or what? Or they want to send me a message by hurting someone I care about. Isabelle's face went white. This is because of you. Someone broke into my apartment because of you. I don't know that for certain, but it's possible. She pulled her hand back. God, this is exactly what I was afraid of during our marriage, that your world would touch me, that I'd become collateral damage in whatever wars you were fighting. Isabelle, get out. What? Get out. Her voice shook. I spent 2 years building a life that was mine. A life that was safe and normal and didn't involve men breaking into my apartment because of who I used to be married to. And now you're back for 3 weeks. And already I'm sitting in a hospital, terrified, because someone wants to use me against you. I'm not leaving you unprotected. I don't want your protection. I want my life back. The one I had before you showed up at that gala with your sad eyes and your garden and your promises that you've changed. Tears streamed down her face. Nothing's changed, Dante. You're still dangerous. Still the man whose enemies become mine. And I can't do this again. A nurse entered. Miss Laurent, we have your discharge papers. Oh, I'm sorry. Should I come back? No. Isabelle stood, swayed slightly. He was just leaving. Dante looked at her bruised, terrified, pushing him away for the second time. Every instinct screamed at him to refuse, to stay, to wrap her in security and never let anything touch her again. But he'd lost her once by not respecting her choices. He wouldn't, to make that mistake twice. Marco will be outside, he said quietly. He's not obvious, but he's good. He'll make sure you get home safely and that your apartment is secure. I don't want. Not negotiable. Someone broke into your home, Isabelle. Whatever you feel about me, I'm not leaving you vulnerable. His voice hardened. You can hate me tomorrow. Tonight, you let me keep you safe. He left before she could argue. Outside, Marco was already waiting, phone pressed to his ear. He hung up when Dante approached. Talk, Dante said. Break-in wasn't random. Professional job. No fingerprints. Disabled security cameras on the 3rd floor. Knew exactly which apartment was hers. They weren't there to rob her. Then what were they there for? To send you a message. Marco pulled up a photo on his phone. This was spray-painted on her bedroom wall. Police photographed it before painting over. The image showed 3 words in red. The king remembers. Dante's blood went cold. Vittorio, he said. That's my guess. We thought he'd disappeared after you left, went underground. But if he's back, then he knows I'm not as dead to my old life as I claimed. Dante's jaw clenched. He knows about Isabelle, and he's using her to draw me out. Or to punish you for walking away. Dante pulled out his phone, dialed a number he hadn't called in 2 years. A voice answered on the 3rd ring, gruff, cautious. Well, the ghost calls. Uncle Sal, I need information. You walk away from the family, don't call for 2 years, and now you need something. That's rich. Is Vittorio back in New York? Silence. Then, why do you ask? Because someone just broke into my ex-wife's apartment and left a message that only he would send. Your ex-wife? The pretty one with the art degree? Thought you were done with her. I was wrong. Is he back? Sal sighed. 3 months ago. Quiet at first, rebuilding his crew, but word is he's making moves again. Thinks the territory you left. Behind is his for the taking. And he knows about Isabelle. If he's sending messages through her, then yeah, he knows. Sal paused. Dante, walking away doesn't work if your enemies follow. You need to end this or disappear completely. No middle ground. I can't disappear. Not anymore. Then you know what you have to do. Dante hung up, looked at Marco. Get me a full security detail. I want eyes on Isabelle 24/7. Best people we have. She's going to fight you on this. I don't care. And find Vittorio. I want to know where he sleeps, what he eats, who he talks to, everything. You're going back in. It wasn't a question. For her? Yes. Dante's expression hardened into something Marco recognized the king, returning to his throne. I walked away once and thought that was enough. But you can't leave this world by asking nicely. You leave by making sure no one dares follow. This could get messy. I know. But the alternative is Isabelle getting hurt because of me, and I'll burn down the entire city before I let that happen. Inside the hospital, Isabelle sat in the examination room, staring at the discharge papers. The nurse had left. She was alone with her thoughts, and the growing realization that Dante Caruso was never going to be just a ex-husband with a garden and nice words. He was always going to be dangerous, and she was always going to be in danger if she loved him. Her phone buzzed a new one the police had given her since they kept hers for evidence. Single text from an unknown number. You should have stayed in Paris. He brings death to everything he touches. Leave now, or you're next. Isabelle's hands shook as she forwarded the text to the officer who'd taken her statement. Then she pulled on the clothes the hospital had provided and walked into the hallway. Marco was there, exactly as Dante had promised. Tall, dangerous-looking, with kind eyes that didn't match his bodyguard exterior. Miss Laurent, I'm Marco. Dante sent me. I don't need a babysitter. Respectfully, ma'am, you do. Someone broke into your apartment, left threatening messages, and just texted you. This isn't random, and it isn't over. How did you know about the text? Marco pulled out his phone, showed her the same message. Because I'm monitoring your new line, and before you get angry about privacy, understand that whoever's targeting you is serious. They have resources, information, and a grudge against Dante that you're caught in the middle of. Isabelle wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him to leave her alone, that she could handle herself, but she was terrified, and pretending otherwise was stupid. Fine, but I'm going to Adrian's place, not home. Already cleared it with building security. I'll be in the lobby. You won't see me, but I'll be there. Adrian's apartment was in Tribeca, 40th floor with a doorman and security that made Marco nod approvingly. Adrian opened the door in pajamas, took one look at Isabelle's face, and pulled her inside. What happened? She told him everything. The break-in, the photos, the message, the text. Watched his expression shift from concern to fury. This is Dante's fault, Adrian said flatly. His past, his enemies, his mess. I know, and yet you're still considering going back to him. That's not fair. Someone just broke into my apartment. I'm not thinking about relationship decisions right now. Aren't you? Adrian moved to the window, looked out at the city. Because from where I stand, this is exactly why you shouldn't be with him. This is what loving Dante Caruso means: danger, violence, fear. Is that really what you want? Of course not. Then end it. Tell him to leave you alone. Move back to Paris if you have to, but stop letting him pull you back into his world. Isabelle sank onto the couch. It's not that simple. Why not? Because despite everything, the fear, the danger, the very real threat someone had just made part of her, still wanted him, still remembered the way he'd looked at her in that garden, the raw vulnerability in his admission, the 2 years he'd spent building something beautiful for a future he'd destroyed. I need to sleep, she said instead. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Adrian studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Guest room is made up. But Isabelle, whatever you decide, decide soon. Because I can't watch you torn between safety and danger, between me and him. It's not fair to anyone. She went to the guest room, closed the door, and finally let herself cry. For the life she'd built that was crumbling, for the choice she didn't want to make, and for the fact that loving Dante Caruso had always been dangerous. She'd just been naive enough to think leaving him would make her safe. 3 floors below, Marco settled into the lobby, phone in hand. His screen showed 6 camera angles covering every entrance, plus a tracker on Isabelle's phone, and real-time updates from the team Dante had assembled. His phone buzzed. Dante. Status? Marco. She's secure. With Blackwell. Not happy about the protection detail. Dante. Don't care. Keep her safe. Marco. Boss. I found something. Surveillance footage from her building. The guy who broke in, we have a face. 3 seconds later, Dante called. Send it to me. Now. Marco uploaded the photo. Watched on his screen as Dante received it. The silence stretched for 5 full seconds. Then, son of a bitch. You know him? Alessandro. Vittorio's cousin. The one I thought left the city 2 years ago. He's back. And he's working for Vittorio. Which means Vittorio knows exactly where to hit me. Isabelle isn't random, she's targeted. Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous. Marco, I need you to do something for me. Name it. Tomorrow morning, I want you to take Isabelle to the house in the Hudson Valley. Tell her I'm not there, that I'm giving her space. But I want her somewhere Vittorio can't reach. She's not going to agree to. Take that. Then make her understand that staying in the city gets her killed. Tell her. Dante paused. Tell her I love her too much to watch her become collateral damage in my war. Even if it means she hates me for forcing her hand. You're going after Vittorio. I'm ending this. Tonight. By tomorrow, either Vittorio's dead or I am. Either way, Isabelle is safe. Dante, going alone is suicide. I'm not going alone. I'm calling in every favor I have. Uncle Sal, the families who stayed neutral, everyone who remembers why they used to fear me. It's time to remind this city that walking away didn't make me weak. It made me something worse, a king with nothing to lose except the one person who matters. Marco heard the finality in his voice. And if something happens to you, what do I tell her? Tell her she was right, that I was always going to be dangerous, but that every dangerous thing I did was to make sure she could live without fear. Dante's voice softened. And tell her, I'm sorry, for all of it, for not being the man she needed when I had the chance. Boss, keep her safe, Marco. That's all that matters now. The line went dead. Marco stared at his phone, then at the building where Isabelle slept, unaware that Dante Caruso was about to go to war for her. Again, some men learned from their mistakes. Others doubled down. Dante had always been the latter. Vittorio Romano sat in the back room of a restaurant in Little Italy, eating ossobuco and discussing territorial boundaries with 3 men who represented the new power structure in New York. The Caruso property's in Brooklyn, one man said. When do we move? Soon. But first, we send one more message. Vittorio wiped his mouth. The ex-wife was just the opening. Next, we hit something he really cares about. What's left? You already burned his mother's foundation building 2 years ago. Not burned. Damaged. There's a difference. Vittorio smiled. Tomorrow we finish the job. Burn it to the ground. Make it clear that Dante Caruso's legacy is ash. The door burst open. Not kicked in, that would have given them time to react. It simply opened, and Dante Caruso walked through like he owned the place, which, 20 years ago, he had. Behind him came 12 men, not thug soldiers, the kind who'd survived decades in a world where most died young. The room froze. Vittorio, Dante said pleasantly, we need to talk. Vittorio recovered quickly. Dante, I heard you were dead. You heard wrong, but you're about to experience accuracy. Dante moved closer, and his men positioned themselves strategically. You broke into my ex-wife's apartment, sent her threatening messages. That was a mistake. Was it? Because from where I sit, you walked away from power. That means you forfeited protection. Her, your properties, your legacy, all of it's fair game. Here's the thing about walking away, Dante said conversationally. People assume it means you're weak, that you can't fight anymore. But what if it just means you found something worth not fighting for? What if walking away was the strongest thing I ever did? He leaned on the table, directly across from Vittorio. And what if threatening that thing brings back the man you should have stayed afraid of? Vittorio's hand moved toward his weapon. Instantly, 12 guns pointed at him. I wouldn't, Dante said. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and I haven't slept in 30 hours. I'm not in the mood for negotiations. Then what do you want? I want you to understand something very clearly. Isabelle Laurent is off limits. You don't touch her, don't contact her, don't even think about her. The same goes for any property with my name on it, any business I legitimized, any person I protected when I was active. Or what? Or I come out of retirement. Permanently. Dante straightened. I've spent 2 years being nobody, building legitimate businesses, staying clean, playing nice. But if you force my hand, if you make me choose between peace and protecting her, I'll choose her every single time. And then you'll remember why my name still makes people nervous. Big talk from a man who walked away. I walked away because I wanted to, not because I had to. Dante's expression went cold. Don't confuse restraint with inability, Vittorio. It's a fatal mistake. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. That message you left, the king remembers? The king does remember. He remembers who swore loyalty, who broke it, and who needs to be reminded that thrones don't stay empty just because you want them. Outside, Marco was waiting with the car. How did it go? Either he's smart enough to back off, or stupid enough to escalate. We'll know by morning. And if he escalates, then we end this properly. The way I should have before I left. Dante pulled out his phone, looked at the photo of Isabelle from the gala, laughing, radiant, alive. But tonight, I need to see her. Make sure. She's okay. She's at Blackwell's place, with instructions not to be disturbed. I'm disturbing anyway. Boss, she asked for space. Someone threatened her life because of me. Space is a luxury we don't have anymore. 20 minutes later, Dante stood outside Adrian's building. Marco had called ahead, smoothed things over with security. The elevator rose 40 floors, and Dante's heart hammered harder with each passing level. Adrian opened the door, looked at Dante with barely concealed hostility. It's 4 a.m. I know. I need to see her. She's sleeping. Then I'll wait. They stared at each other, two men who loved the same woman, both knowing that only one would win. You're going to destroy her, Adrian said quietly. Again, she's finally happy, finally safe, and you're pulling her back into danger. I'm eliminating the danger. By going to war? By proving you're still the violent man she left? Adrian shook his head. She doesn't want that, Dante. She wants the man who builds gardens and admits his mistakes. But that's not who you really are, is it? You're right. I'm both. The man who builds gardens and the man who burns down anyone who threatens them. Dante's voice hardened. And I'm done pretending I can be just one. She'll never feel safe with you. Maybe not, but she'll never feel alive with you. The words hung in the air, brutal, honest, cutting. Before Adrian could respond, Isabelle appeared in the hallway. She wore Adrian's sweatshirt, hair messy from sleep, eyes widening when she saw Dante. What are you doing here? Making sure you're okay. At 4 a.m.? Yes. She looked between them, Adrian tense and protective. Dante exhausted and dangerous, and made a decision. Adrian, can you give us a minute? Isabelle. Please. He left reluctantly, closing the door to his bedroom. Isabelle crossed her arms, studied Dante. You look terrible. I've been dealing with the situation. What situation? The one where someone threatened. You and I had to remind certain people why that's a bad idea. Her eyes narrowed. What did you do? I had a conversation with Vittorio Romano, the man who broke into your apartment. A conversation. A very clear conversation about boundaries and consequences. It won't happen again. You're sure about that? I'm sure that if it does, it'll be the last thing he ever does. Isabelle's expression shifted. Fear, anger, something that might have been relief. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You solving problems with violence. I'm solving problems the only way that works in my world. Your world, not mine. Isabelle, your world and mine overlapped the moment you married me. You can pretend they're separate, but they're not. And they never will be as long as someone knows we were connected. Then we stay disconnected. I'll move back to Paris, change my name, disappear. Do you really want to spend your life running? Looking over your shoulder? Giving up the career you love because my past won't let you go? What's the alternative? Stay with you and live in constant danger? No, stay with me and let me make sure danger never touches you again. Dante moved closer. I'm not asking you to accept my violence. I'm asking you to let me use it to protect you. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. His hand came up, cupped her face. She should pull away. Didn't. When I was married to you before, I used violence to build power, to control territory, intimidate rivals, expand my empire. But now I'd burn down the entire city to keep you safe. That's not the same thing. It's still violence. It's love. Violent, protective, completely irrational love for a woman who deserves better but I'm too selfish to let go of. Isabelle's breath caught. Dante, I went to see Vittorio tonight because someone threatened you. I'll go again tomorrow if I have to, and the day after that, and every single day for the rest of my life. Because the alternative, the one where you get hurt because I tried to be civilized, that's not an option I can live with. What if I can't live with you being violent? Then we're at an impasse. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But I think you know, deep down, that the man who builds gardens and the man who breaks bones for you are the same person. You just have to decide if you can accept both. I don't know if I can. Then figure it out, but do it somewhere safe. He pulled out keys, the ones to the Hudson Valley house. Marco's taking you there tomorrow. You'll have security, space, everything you need. And while you're deciding whether you can love all of me, I'll be making sure you never have to choose between safety and me again. You're sending me away? I'm protecting you. There's a difference. Stop saying there's a difference when there isn't. Her voice rose. You're controlling me, making decisions for me, exactly like you did during our marriage. The difference is this: time. I'm doing it because I love you more than I love controlling you. Because your safety matters more than my ego. Dante stepped back. Go to the house. Stay there for 3 days. That's how long it'll take me to end this properly. Then come back and decide. Decide what? Everything. Me, Adrian, what kind of life you want. I'll accept whatever you choose, but make that choice knowing you're safe to do so. He left before she could argue. Isabelle stood in Adrian's living room, holding keys to a house built for a future she'd thought was dead, and wondered when her life had become a choice between two versions of herself. The one who wanted peace, and the one who'd never felt more alive than when loving a dangerous man. The Hudson Valley house looked different in morning light. Isabelle stood on the terrace, coffee in hand, watching mist rise off the distant mountains. Marco had driven her here at dawn, barely speaking except to assure her that Dante had the situation under control. Whatever that meant. She'd been here for 2 days now. 2 days of silence broken only by birdsong and the occasional text from Adrian asking if she was okay. 2 days of walking through gardens Dante had built for her, sitting in the studio with perfect northern light, trying to understand how she'd ended up here again, caught between safety and passion, between the life she'd built and the man who'd destroyed it. Her phone buzzed. Not Adrian this time. Dante. Vittorio's gone. He left the city last night. Won't be back. She stared at the message. Wanted to ask how. Wanted to know what gone meant in Dante's world. But she was afraid of the answer. She typed back. Did you hurt him? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. I convinced him that leaving was healthier than staying. Details don't matter. What matters is, you're safe now. Details always matter with you. Not this time. This time, all that matters is you can go back to your life without fear. Isabelle set her phone down and walked into the garden. The morning was cold. November, creeping toward December. But the greenhouse was warm. Inside, she found what Dante had planted. Herbs, winter vegetables, flowers that would bloom in spring. A journal sat on the potting bench. She opened it and found Dante's handwriting notes about each plant. when it was planted, what it needed to thrive. But interspersed with the gardening notes were other entries. March 15. Planted the peonies she loved. They won't bloom until next year. By then, maybe I'll have figured out how to be the man she deserved. June 3. The wisteria isn't taking. Need to adjust the soil pH. Isabelle would know what to do. She always understood how to make beautiful things grow. September 22, 1724. First frost warning. Covered the tender plants. Wondered if she's cold in Paris. Wondered if she ever thinks about me. October 8, her birthday. She's 32 now, I remembered. Sent flowers to her old address, but they came back. She's disappeared completely. Good. She's safe that way. Tears blurred the pages. 2 years of entries. 2 years of Dante coming here alone, tending a garden for a woman he'd lost, trying to grow something beautiful in the ruins of what he'd destroyed. Her phone rang. Not Dante this time. Adrian. Hey, she answered, voice rough. You sound like you've been crying. Just thinking. About him. About everything. Isabelle sat on the greenhouse bench. Adrian, I need to be honest with you. Silence. Then resigned. You're going back to him. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know it's not fair to you. You deserve someone who chooses you without hesitation, who doesn't spend 2 days in her ex-husband's house crying over his garden journal. He built you a garden. He built me a whole life, one he thought we'd never share. And I'm sitting here realizing that the man who ignored me during our marriage was paying attention the entire time. He just didn't know how to show it. That doesn't make it okay. No, it doesn't. But it makes it real. Complicated and messy and real in a way that... She trailed off, unable to finish without hurting him more. In a way that we're not, Adrian finished for her. I've always known, Isabelle, that I was the safe choice. The rebound who stuck around. I hoped that would be enough. That eventually, safe would become satisfying. But you can't force passion. You can't logic yourself into feeling alive. I do love you, I know, but not the way you love him. Not the way that makes you cry over a garden journal. His voice softened. I meant what I said before. I won't be someone's consolation prize. So, if you're choosing him, choose him completely. Don't look back. Don't second guess. What if I'm making a mistake? Then you're making a mistake that matters to you. That's better than making the safe choice that leaves you wondering, what if, for the rest of your life. After they hung up, Isabelle sat in the greenhouse for a long time. The journal was still open in her lap, Dante's handwriting mapping 2 years of grief and growth. She pulled out her phone and texted him. Where are you? Manhattan. Cleaning up some business. I need to see you. Tonight. Are you sure? Come to the house. We need to talk. I'll be there by 8. Dante arrived at 7:45, because of course he did. Punctuality had always been his tell when he was nervous, showing up early to prove he had control over something. Isabelle watched from the window as he parked, sat in the car for a full minute before getting out. Even from a distance, she could see the exhaustion in his posture, the weight of whatever he'd done to make her safe. She opened the door before he knocked. They stood there, studying each other. He looked older in the porch light, new lines around his eyes, gray threading through his dark hair at the temples, the cost of 2 years apart, written on his face. Come in, she said. He followed her to the living room. She'd built a fire, and it cast flickering shadows across the walls. On the coffee table sat the journal, open to his entries. Dante saw it and went still. You read that. You left it where I'd find it. I didn't think... He stopped. No, that's a lie. I hoped you'd find it. Hoped you'd understand what I couldn't say when we were married. That you loved me? That I loved you so much it terrified me. That every time I looked at you, I saw everything I could lose. So I pulled away, convinced myself that distance was protection. That if I didn't let you all the way in, losing you wouldn't destroy me. He laughed bitterly. Turned out, losing you destroyed me anyway. I just did it to myself. Isabelle sat on the couch, gestured for him to join her. He sat carefully, leaving space between them. Tell me about Vittorio, she said. The truth. I don't think you want to know. I do. If we're going to do this, if I'm even considering it, I need to know who you really are. Not the man who builds gardens. The other one. Dante was quiet for a moment. Then, I went to him with 12 men, made it clear that touching you again would result in consequences he wouldn't survive. He's smart enough to understand when he's beaten, so he took a deal leave New York permanently, and I don't dismantle his organization piece by piece. And if he'd said no, then I would have done exactly what I threatened. Because I meant what I said, Isabelle. I will burn down this entire city before I let anyone hurt you. That's not normal, Dante. That's not how healthy people handle conflict. I've never claimed to be healthy. I've claimed to love you. And in my world, love means protection by any means necessary. He turned to face her fully. I know that's not what you want to hear. You want me to say I've changed, that I'm not violent anymore, that I can solve problems with therapy and communication, but that would be a lie. So you haven't changed? I've changed in the ways that matter. I'm not building an empire anymore. I'm not prioritizing power over people. I've legitimized my businesses, walked away from criminal operations, become exactly what you asked me to be. He paused. But I'll never stop being dangerous, and I'll never apologize for using that danger to protect you. Isabelle stood, moved to the window. Outside, the garden was dark, but she could see its shape in the moonlight, all those careful plantings, all that hope grown in secret. During our marriage, I begged you to see me, to put me first, to show me that I mattered more than your empire. I know. And you couldn't, or wouldn't. Every time I needed you, business came first. Every anniversary, every birthday, every moment that mattered to me, you were somewhere else. I know that too. She turned to face him. But you were here. Every weekend for 2 years, you were here. Building something for me even though you thought you'd never see me again. Because leaving you didn't. I stopped loving you. It just meant I finally understood that I'd lost my chance. Dante stood, but didn't approach. I can't change the past, Isabelle. Can't take back the anniversaries I missed or the birthdays I forgot. But I can promise you a future where you never doubt that you're the most important thing in my life. How? How can you promise that when your world is violent and dangerous and full of people like Vittorio? Because I've learned the difference between what I want and what I need. I wanted power. An empire. Control over territory and respect from men who feared me. He moved closer. But I need you. Your laugh, your presence, the way you make me feel human instead of monstrous. And I'll give up anything power, territory, control, to keep you. But I won't give up the ability to protect you. That's non-negotiable. So I have to accept that you're violent. You have to accept that I'm capable of violence when you're threatened. There's a difference. His hand came up, hovered near her face. When we were married, I used violence for ambition. Now I'd only use it for you. That's growth, even if it's not the kind you wanted. Isabelle closed her eyes, felt his hand finally touch her face, his thumb brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. I'm scared, Dante. Of me? Of how much I still love you. Of how alive I feel when you're near. Of the fact that safe and boring sounds terrible compared to dangerous and passionate. She opened her eyes. Adrian is perfect for me on paper. Kind, stable, present. Everything you weren't during our marriage. And I felt nothing standing in his apartment, knowing he wanted to marry me. Just grateful, comfortable, safe. And with me, with you, I feel everything. Terror and joy and anger and desire all tangled up until I can't separate them. It's exhausting and exhilarating and exactly what I thought I was done with. But I've been walking through this garden you built, reading your journal entries, and realizing that maybe the problem wasn't that you didn't love me. Maybe the problem was that neither of us knew how to love each other properly. Dante's expression shifted hope and fear and desperate need. Are you saying? I'm saying I'm tired of being safe. I'm tired of choosing the logical option when my heart is screaming something else. She took his face in her hands. I'm saying I want to try again. But not the way we did before. This time we do it right. What does right look like? Therapy. Both of us, together and separately. You learning healthier ways to handle conflict. Me learning to speak up before resentment builds. Actual communication, instead of you shutting down and me pretending everything's fine. Done. I'm not finished. I keep my career, my independence, my own identity. I'm not becoming Mrs. Caruso again, absorbed into your life. We're partners, equals, or this doesn't work. Agreed. And if you ever prioritize business over me again, if you ever make me feel invisible or decorative or like I'm less important than your empire, I'm gone. Permanently. No second chances. Understood. Dante pulled her closer. Anything else? Yeah. She smiled through tears. Tell me you love me. Not because I'm asking, not because you're trying to win me back, but because you need to say it. I love you. The words came out raw, honest, devastating. I loved you when I was too stupid to show it. Loved you through all that silence, I loved you when I saw you at that gala and realized I'd been dying slowly without you. I'll love you for the rest of my life, Isabelle. Even if you walk away again. Even if this doesn't work. Even if I mess it up, somehow I'll still love you. She kissed him. Not tentatively. Not questioning, kissed him with 2 years of grief and longing and stubborn, irrational hope. He kissed her back like a man drowning, his hands in her hair, her body pressed against his, both of them trying to bridge the distance they'd created. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. I'm going to mess this up, he said quietly. I'm going to forget things and prioritize wrong and slip back into old patterns. I'm going to be difficult and complicated and probably drive you crazy. I know. And you're still choosing this? I'm choosing you. All of you. The man who builds gardens and the man who threatens people for me. The soft parts and the dangerous parts. All of it. Why? Because loving you feels like coming home. Terrifying, complicated, completely irrational home. They stood there in the firelight, holding each other, while the garden waited outside, a testament to hope planted in secret, growing in darkness, finally reaching light. 3 months after their reconciliation, Isabelle stood in her office at the Met, reviewing plans for the spring exhibition. The door opened and Dante walked in, carrying coffee and looking apologetic. I know you said you had a meeting at 2, but I was nearby and thought. He stopped. I'm interrupting. I should go. No, stay. She smiled, took the coffee. Meeting got canceled. I have 20 minutes. He sat in the chair across from her desk, and she noticed the difference. During their marriage, he would have stayed standing, already half gone even when present. Now he settled in, gave her his full attention. How was therapy? She asked. Uncomfortable. Doctor. Morrison thinks I use control as a defense mechanism against vulnerability. She's not wrong. I know. She also suggested I practice asking for what I need instead of assuming you'll just understand. Oh, this should be good. Dante smiled. I need you to have dinner with me tonight. Not because we have plans, not because it's expected, because I missed you today and I want to hear about your meeting with the board. That's better. Isabelle came around the desk, sat on his lap. His arms came around her automatically. Dinner sounds perfect, but I need something first. What? For you to stop looking at me like you're waiting for me to change my mind and leave. His expression flickered. That obvious? Only to me. She touched his face. Dante, I chose you. I keep choosing you. Every day, even on the hard days, you have to start believing that. I'm trying. I know. She kissed him softly. It's growth. Uncomfortable, slow growth. They sat together in her office while the museum hummed with life outside, visitors, scholars, people engaging with beauty that outlasted individuals. It felt metaphorical somehow. Art survived, beauty persisted, and maybe love could too, if you were willing to do the work. Oh, Dante said, pulling out his phone. Uncle Sal wants to know if we're coming to his daughter's wedding next month. The family wedding, where I'll meet all your relatives I've been successfully avoiding for years. You don't have to come if you're not ready. No, I'll come, but you're explaining to them why we got divorced and remarried within 2 years. I'm not taking responsibility for that story. Fair. He kissed her temple. For what it's worth, they're going to love you. Uncle Sal already asked if you're the one who got me to start seeing a therapist. I think he wants to thank you personally. Your family is bizarre. Our family now. Our very bizarre family. Isabelle's phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Saw your engagement announcement in the Times. Congratulations. He better treat you right this time. She showed Dante the message. Should I be jealous? He asked. Should I be jealous of every woman you've spoken to in the past 2 years? Fair point. Are you happy? Really happy? Isabelle thought about it. About the therapy sessions where they fought and cried and learned to communicate. About the dinner last week when Dante's phone rang during their anniversary celebration and he sent it to voicemail without looking. About waking up in his arms and feeling safe and passionate simultaneously. Yeah, she said. I really am. It's messy and complicated and we're both works in progress, but I'm happy. Good. He stood, setting her on her feet. I should let you work. But dinner at 7? 7's perfect. He kissed her once more, then headed for the door. Paused with his hand on the handle. Isabelle? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For being brave enough to try again, for seeing past who I was to who I'm trying to become, for choosing the complicated option when safe would have been easier. You're worth the complications. After he left, Isabelle returned to her desk. Through the window, she could see Central Park, the same view from her office where, 3 months ago, she'd told Dante it was too late. Maybe timing wasn't about being early or late. Maybe it was about being ready. Ready to be vulnerable, to risk getting hurt again, to believe that people could grow and change and become better versions of themselves. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dante. Forgot to mention the wisteria at the house finally took. You were right about the soil pH. We should go up this weekend to see it. She smiled and typed back. It's a date. Outside, the city moved on. Unaware that, in a museum office, a woman was finally learning that love wasn't about being safe or dangerous, logical or passionate. It was about choosing someone who saw you completely and choosing them back, especially when it was hard. 3 years ago, Dante Caruso had let her walk away without a fight. 2 years later, he'd built her a garden in secret. Now, they were building something better together. A partnership messy enough to be real, strong enough to last, and brave enough to believe that second chances could become forevers. Epilogue. 3 years later. The baby monitor crackled with the sound of Sophia crying. Dante was on his feet before Isabelle could move, already heading upstairs to their daughter's nursery. I've got her, he called back. You rest. Isabelle settled back into the couch, hands on her swollen belly. 7 months pregnant with their second child, exhausted from a day at the museum, but content in a way she'd never imagined possible. Through the monitor, she heard Dante's voice, soft and loving. Hey, Principessa. What's wrong? Bad dream? I've got you. Daddy's here. Sophia's crying quieted to whimpers, then silence. Dante's lullaby drifted through the speaker off-key, Italian, the same one his mother used to sing. Marco appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. Boss, we have a situation with the Philadelphia property. Need your sign-off on. He stopped, saw Isabelle's expression. Sorry, I'll come back tomorrow. No, it's fine. He'll be down in a few minutes. Actually, tell them to handle it, Dante said, coming down the stairs with Sophia in his arms. Their daughter was 18 months old, dark-haired and dark-eyed, with Dante's determination and Isabelle's laugh. Whatever. It is, they can make the decision. I'm off duty. Marco blinked. Off duty? Family time. No business after 6 p.m. unless someone's actively dying. We discussed this. Right. Yeah, I'll handle it. Marco left, shaking his head in amazement. Dante sat beside Isabelle, Sophia tucked against his chest. You okay? Do you need anything? I'm perfect. She leaned into him. But I'm confiscating your phone for the rest of the evening, Doctor. Morrison said you're still too available for business calls. She's not wrong. He handed over his phone without argument. But in my defense, I've gotten much better. You have. Last year, you would have taken that meeting. Now you're actually prioritizing family time. Because you threatened to move back to Paris if I didn't. Empty threat. You know I'd never leave this garden. Through the window, they could see their backyard, a smaller version of the Hudson Valley house, but just as carefully tended. Roses, peonies, herbs, vegetables. A place where beauty grew alongside their life together. Sophia squirmed, reaching for Isabelle's belly. Baby? Yes, your little brother is in there. Isabelle guided Sophia's hand to where the baby was kicking. Feel that? He sang hello. Low, Sophia repeated, then lost interest and wriggled down to play with her toys. Dante's arm came around Isabelle, pulling her close. I was thinking about something today. Dangerous habit. I was thinking about the day you left. I thought my life was over, that I'd destroyed the only real thing I'd ever had. And now? Now I'm sitting here with my wife, my daughter, my son on the way, and I realize I had to lose everything to understand what mattered. Had to hit bottom before I could rebuild properly. Poetic. I'm serious. He tilted her face up. Thank you for giving me a second chance. For being patient while I figured out how to be a decent human being. For loving me even when I was actively unlovable. You're welcome. But you did the work, Dante. You showed up to therapy, changed your priorities, learned to communicate. I just provided motivation. You provided everything. They sat together while Sophia played, while the baby kicked, while their life unfolded around them messy, imperfect, exactly right. Isabelle's phone buzzed. A message from Catherine at the museum. Board approved your promotion. Congratulations, Director Laurent Caruso. She showed Dante, who pulled her into a fierce hug. You did it. I'm so proud of you. Couldn't have done it without your support. The flexibility to leave early for Sophia. The understanding when I had to work late. That's what partners do. Support each other's dreams. Look at you, being emotionally evolved. I have a good therapist. And a better wife. Sophia toddled over, demanding attention. Dante scooped her up, tossed her gently in the air until she shrieked with laughter. Watching them, Isabelle felt her heart expand until it ached. This was what she'd begged for during their first marriage. This presence, this joy, this sense that she mattered more than business or power or control. And Dante had finally figured out how to give it to her. Not perfectly. They still fought. Still had moments when old patterns emerged. But they fought fair now, communicated openly, and chose each other even when it was hard. "What are you thinking?" Dante asked, catching her expression. "That I'm glad I came back to New York. That seeing you at that gala was the best worst thing that could have happened. Best worst thing? Best because it led to this. Worst because I had to go through months of torture figuring out if you'd really changed. And you did. You really did." That night, after Sophia was asleep and the house was quiet, they stood in the garden together. December stars blazed overhead, cold and brilliant. "Do you ever miss it?" Isabelle asked. "The power, the control, the empire you walked away from?" Dante considered. "Sometimes. Old habits. But then Sophia calls me daddy, or you smile at me across the dinner table, or I feel our son kick, and I remember why I walked away. This is better. This is real. Even with the chaos? Especially with the chaos." He pulled her close, his hand on her belly. "This chaos means I'm living, not just surviving. That I'm part of something bigger than my own ambition. That I matter to people who matter to me. You've gotten philosophical in your old age. 37 isn't old. Tell that to the gray in your hair. You love the gray. I love all of you. Gray hair, emotional growth, terrible lullabies, all of it." They stood together in their garden, in their life, in the future they'd fought so hard to build. Behind them, the house glowed with warm light. Ahead, years of messy, beautiful, complicated love. Dante had ignored her for years, choosing power over partnership. Then jealousy showed him his mistake. And second chances had given them everything. Not a fairy tale. Ending. Better. A real one. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.